Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new to Figure It Outie, welcome. My name is Steve. Usually I'm working on cars, but sometimes I do tool reviews, but today I'm doing a review on something that holds tools because it's finally time for me to do something about this janky amateur workbench tool storage situation. If you're one of my longer term subscribers, you may have watched the garage build series that I did about 2 years ago where I built this entire garage from scratch. And if you didn't see it, playlist is up there now in the eye. But my point is, don't be fooled by, the pretty nice garage, and got some okay cars here too. I'm not that flush. When we finished the project, I didn't have any money left over to do the floors or do any cabinetry or benches or any of that good stuff. So I've been making the most of it for a couple of years now, and it's okay, but I find when I'm in the thick of a project, I'm scrambling around using lots of tools and pulling stuff out, I lose my precious workbench space so quickly and my tools are just flying around. I have no organization and I just can't stand it anymore. For those of you that specifically landed on this video to see the review, yes, we're going to be setting up the Husky 52-inch 15-drawer tool chest in a second here, but I want to really give you a good idea of kind of what I've been hiding for the last couple of years behind the scenes. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I want to show you how much stuff I have and how it's kept right now so you can get a really good idea of how much space I'm about to save and how much stuff I can get from 3 tables worth into 1 tool chest. I was not lying when I said I have no storage right now. In fact, the closest thing to storage I have is a bin. It is so embarrassing. I have all my hand tools, a lot of actually really high quality tools and expensive things just sitting in a plastic bin. And when I need one, I have to haul this out, dig things out, put them on the ground, and pick out what I need. It takes forever and it makes cleaning up so hard. And of course, security is always a factor. This building itself is actually very secure. We built it that way, but theoretically, if someone could get in here, they're not locked up, they're not stored away. All my good stuff is out in the open and someone's gonna get a payday. So, as a good homeowner like you, I'm sure you wanna do something to secure your best assets. Well, I think that's been plenty ado, so let's crack into these boxes and see what we get. The fact that there's only 2 and they're very big leads me to believe that there is no assembly required, which is fantastic, but let's get into it. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely despise this type of styrofoam. Not only is it actually garbage and it goes straight into a landfill these days, but as soon as it breaks, you lose the little plastic beads and then they swirl around your garage forever and you can never find them. I'm excited to take my first real look at this here. Now, there are 3 different color options you can get for this. There is sort of a matte blue, a silver, but in my opinion, this is the only way to go. All black, murdered out. About half an hour of work later and you have something like this. Now you do have to tip it over on its back and attach 6 casters. Now Husky gives you 2 different configuration options depending on if you plan on moving your cabinet quite a bit or not really a lot. So there are 4 swivel casters and 2 stationary ones. And basically if you do not want to move your cabinet super often, you put the swivels out on the outside. And if you do want to move it a lot, you actually stack them right next to each other. I don't plan on moving mine very much, so I put them on the outside. But they took a little bit of work to put on, and it's actually a little bit tricky to upright the cabinet once you attach them. I found that I had to point them the same direction I was going to tilt up, lock them so they don't kick out on me, because I did do this myself, and then you can tip it up safely with 1 person. Speaking of tipping up, the handle was very helpful for that, and obviously something good to help move around. But what I think is a little kitschy is the bottle opener. I mean, it's a bit of a stereotype, don't you think? Does Husky think that guys drink so much beer, especially like bottled beer in the garage, that it's a necessary thing to put a bottle opener on the side of your cabinet? I don't really think so. In fact, if you want to put this cabinet up next to something, it might actually get in the way. So I might actually remove both of these later once I have it in place, but we'll see. 2 things to mention about the drawers. Now, we were talking about security earlier, and these are all locked right now. And there is a set of 2 keys that manage 1 central lock. And of course it opens. Now, the other thing I want to mention is the soft close. These rails don't feel super buttery. This top drawer is not too bad, but give it an average push, closes pretty good. I have noticed that down here at the bottom, the rails are a little stickier. Now, maybe it'll be different when there's more weight inside of these things, but yeah, it's not too bad. Try this one right here. Doesn't quite make it. Give this guy a push. Nope, didn't make it either. So we'll see. Over time, maybe it'll wear in. Not that a guy has to depend on something wearing in to actually work, but I do very much appreciate the soft closed doors. Husky gives you a liner form fit for every single drawer. Not too thick, just about perfect. Kind of grippy, but still smooth on top. And I actually appreciate the logo on there too. That's kind of cool. But we're only half done, so let's go ahead and put the top of the chest on. Lifting the top half of the tool chest on is definitely a two-person job, FYI, unless you're the Hulk. But look at this beauty when you're done. Now for perspective, I'm 6'2", and this thing is a behemoth. So as advertised, it is 51 7/8 inches wide. And when the lid is closed, it's 5 feet tall. But with the lid fully open, it's actually a shade over 6'7". If you're a big fan of keys, you are in luck. So in addition to the bottom, we also have a set of keys just to manage the top drawers. Except for this one, we have a golden set of keys for one personal drawer. So whereas the rest of the toolbox might be holding your tools, maybe this one is your personal belongings for the shop or something that you just want secured when everything else is available. Up on the big top shelf here on both sides, you have a power bar with 4 plugins and 2 USB slots, which is awesome because we're all charging our phones and so many things are battery powered these days. Everything needs to be charged. And on the back strip here along this whole length, it's magnetic, so you can put up your favorite wrench or whatever you want to grab really quickly all the time. I can see that being really handy. Enough of the theoretical, it's time for me to see how much of this I can put in the chest. I will answer that question in a second because I have put a whole lot of stuff in this tool chest, but what I didn't see coming was the fact that it was going to spur on about a 3-day reorganization project. So I can tell you already that the secret benefit to getting one of these tool chests is that it's not about the chest itself, it's about the gained space that you're going to get in the rest of your garage. So check it out. Yes, tool chest here in place of one of those old tables, looking great. And I still have 2 tables, but notably I have way more usable work surface despite the fact that I only have 2 out of 3 now. I have an entire space to just do active projects, so it doesn't hold anything necessarily or store anything. It just has all my working items. And then I have a little corner here for, YouTubing or whatever I need to do. So 1 less table, way more usable space, and now I have this awesome chest in play too. After putting this together for a couple of days here, I do have a few first impressions that I'll share with you, but first, the money shot. What I love is this topmost drawer on the bottom half. That's where all your go-to daily items are going to be, and it just looks so cool to see all of your stuff organized like this. Speaking of organization, I actually immediately ran into the problem of not knowing how to efficiently store everything. So I'm not even talking about trying to decide what to put in which drawers, because that was a challenge, but there's actually something about the way you store stuff too. So I'll show you what I mean. I immediately went out and bought a few of these plier racks. So this allows you to put long-handled items upright and stack them in a row like this instead of just layering everything on top of each other. I found things like this really, really helpful. Likewise, and I'm sure this isn't news to a lot of you, but I think you'll find that you need a whole bunch of socket organizers too. Once you start throwing away all your plastic blow molded cases, which don't get me wrong, feels amazing. I'd love to declutter all those old cases that I was lugging around. You're gonna need an alternate to actually hold all those items in place. So socket organizers, and I also needed to get a few of these just general compartmental packs here. I have them spread throughout a couple of drawers, and I've organized these things based on drive size in this case for my sockets and wrenches. But you'll find that you'll need to go out right away and buy a couple extra things when you get a chest like this. Another thing I want to mention is just sort of some proximity items. So one, and I hate harping on this again, but the bottle opener is so useless. Maybe if you don't have the chest stacked up against something, but if you ever plan to roll your chest up against a table, you're not going to be able to even put a bottle under here. So I'm actually going to remove that. And likewise, I might move the handle to the other side because I find it a bit obtrusive. And I didn't find that I desperately needed the handle to effectively move this unit around, even though it was really heavy. So FYI, and then another thing is if you plan on pushing this back against a wall, you can't. You need about 3.5 inches back here because the lid doesn't actually open flush with the back of the body. You're going to hit the wall if you don't leave yourself some space. My final short-term notes here about a couple of days of using the top part of the tool chest is one, I really like having the power bars on both sides. I use them specifically for charging batteries, and the fact is these things are sort of bulky units. So if you wanted to get a whole bunch stacked up on one side, I wasn't really finding a nice way to do that with plugging in and kind of getting in the way, especially if you didn't want to get in the way of the USB. So having one on each side is great. On the downside, I didn't find a single use for the magnetic strip in the back, and it's huge. But when I was organizing my drawers, there was no one item that I thought was more useful stuck to the back of here than it was organized in a drawer. The last item I want to bring up is stability. Now, don't get me wrong, I am aware that if you put a bunch of heavy stuff in drawers and open all the drawers, the thing is going to fall over. But I was actually a little surprised at how unstable or suggestively unstable that the unit might be able to be with only a couple drawers open. And I'll give you an example here. So I can kind of give this a bit of a rock, and she moves for sure. And if I were to open, and I tested this, my biggest drawer at the bottom, full of, not too heavy things, but full of stuff. And then my primary drawer with a bunch of metal objects in it. And even one more with a bunch of tools that are a little bit heavier like this. This thing was rocking seriously. So I know that this can't be pushed all the way back against a wall, and I don't know if the wheel design can be reconfigured to sort of space them out a little bit, but I think Husky might want to think about strapping onto a wall or provide a bit of a hook on the backside in either of the edges so that you can actually affix it to the wall. Might be smart. Now, to make sure this review is really thorough, what I'm going to do is live with this tool chest for a month. I'm going to use it for all my regular hobby mechanic type of stuff, and I'll see you back in 30 days to get some final impressions. Star Wars wipe. I've aged 1 month, and I've noticed 4 things over the last 30 days of using this tool chest. My first and most significant gripe is that it seems like the matte part of the finish, what actually makes this cabinet kind of cool, being black on black, and the matte part of it, it actually comes off a little too easily in my opinion. So the scenario was exactly like this right now. I was holding this very pick actually, but imagine yourself holding a tool and going to put it away. Very common procedure, And when you reach forward and go for a drawer pull, whatever's in your hand is also sort of in striking distance. And that's exactly what happened right about here. You can see on the other camera, put a nice little scratch into the matte finish. And that was a little disappointing. The second one is a bit of ergonomics on the handle for the lid. So there is a little scoop at the bottom so that when the lid is up, you can kind of curl your fingers in, pull it down. Makes sense, right? But to push it up, there's only an angle upwards. So I find myself always putting just my thumb in here and kind of pushing up. Obviously the lid is light and that's no problem, but I feel like it was a bit of a missight. It would be so easy to just make it a flat surface and give your hand a little bit more to put leverage onto. Number 3 is just the top shelf. I'm calling it the junk drawer now because that's sort of what it's become. And this is a bit of a two-parter. So one, I never really found a good reason to use this shelf. It's become just a dumping ground of odds and ends of ongoing projects or things that I just didn't want on the bench. I'm just hiding it up here. But the second part is the magnetic strip on the back. Notice how there's nothing on there? After going through a couple of car projects and putting all my tools away in the drawers, I never found a single reason why it was easier to keep something on that strip than to just put it in its spot in the drawer. I do appreciate that the magnetic strip is there, but I don't know what I'm ever going to use it for. The last one might be a little nitpicky, but it's more about manufacturing quality control. And I actually noticed it when I was working on the car and I was looking at the body panels on the vehicle to see how the doors sort of lined up with the quarter panel. And I started looking at the toolbox and went, there's some kind of weird angles going on here. And again, it's very specific, but what you might notice looking at it is that the inside of the drawers have a bigger spacing than the outside. And you notice it sometimes like in the lid here. So although this line right here is actually quite linear, it's even everywhere and big, it isn't the case over here, right? So it starts maybe medium size and gets really tight right here. It actually did rub just a little bit on closing on the lid here. That seems to have gone away. So it's just little things like that if they kind of centered things up, and I don't know how you adjust that in the manufacturing process, but overall it would have provided a little bit more of a fine-tuned unit. So relatively minor complaints aside, I have loved having this tool chest. It's not too big. I know you might be looking at this online thinking, is a 52-inch a little too big for me? I'm just a weekend mechanic or something like that. The space is great, and the difference between probably your normal 46-inch that you'd see online on like a Home Depot, like where I got this, versus a 52, just go for the extra couple of inches. If you can fit it, just take it. The extra wide drawers are really useful. I've put, I don't know, maybe 10 years worth of a small tool collection that I've been growing over time into this thing, even some things that you wouldn't normally put in a tool chest, and it fits pretty decently. It's revolutionized the way I work in the garage here. I feel so much more organized, so much more secure, and I can't believe I didn't have something like this before. So if you've been watching along this video because you're on the 1 yard line trying to decide if this is the unit for you, I'd say go for it. If you really look at the price breakdown too, I got this for about $1,200 Canadian, and that's for an upper and lower set of the 52-inch variety, which is probably a little bigger, like I said, than most you're gonna find online. It is a good bang for your buck. Despite some of the things that I said about the build construction, I do find the quality to be quite good. I have no regrets about buying this, and I'm actually interested in probably getting a couple more Husky pieces for the garage now too. Whether you are already on the journey looking for a tool chest, or maybe I just planted the seed that you need to upgrade your garage at home, I hope you found this review helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these types of product reviews, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks.